When we picture the ancient gods of Northern Europe, we usually imagine the gleaming halls of Asgard and the organized Viking pantheon. But that familiar imagery hides a reality that is older and far more complex. Germanic paganism operated on a massive scale. It thrived for over 1,000 years, following the movement of Germanic-speaking tribes across the entirety of Central and Northern Europe. Yet, despite millions of practitioners living and dying by these beliefs, they left behind zero foundational literature. There are no scrolls, no holy books, not a single written paragraph from an ancient practitioner explaining their own faith. Instead, our knowledge comes from secondary observers, the Roman generals who conquered their lands, the Christian missionaries who worked to convert them, and the distant descendants who romanticized them centuries later. Finding the truth requires stripping away centuries of severe outsider bias and enemy propaganda to see what remains of the original spiritual patterns. The earliest written accounts come from Rome. In the 1st century BC, Julius Caesar encountered Germanic tribes and dismissed them as primitive animists who worshipped only what they could see: the sun, the moon, and fire. A century and a half later, the historian Tacitus provided more detail. He described tribes holding deep reverence for specific gods in dark, sacred groves, and using the whinnying of horses to divine the future. To make sense of these foreign deities, the empire applied Interpretatio Romana, renaming local gods to match their own pantheon. They labeled the thunder god Thor as Hercules and the wandering god Odin as Mercury. This translation erases native culture, squeezing Odin, a deity of wisdom, magic, and war, into the role of Mercury, the Roman messenger, discards the specific nuances that made the god unique. Tacitus also used his subjects as a rhetorical device. He frequently employed the noble savage trope, praising the fierce discipline of the Germanic tribes, specifically to criticize the perceived moral decay of his own Roman society. These Roman texts function as distorted mirrors, reflecting Roman politics. To find the actual practices of the tribes, we have to look for physical evidence that can verify or debunk the written claims. Archaeology acts as the ultimate filter, providing the raw reality of ancient practice without the political baggage of a narrator. Excavators pull hundreds of ritually destroyed weapons from Northern European bogs. These swords and shields were deliberately bent and broken before being committed to the murky water as offerings. The bogs also yield a darker physical record. Bodies perfectly preserved in the peat show signs of violent, organized deaths, evidence of a strict system of human sacrifice or capital punishment tied directly to their cosmology. While Tacitus claimed the tribes found it degrading to depict their gods in human form, archaeologists routinely recover human-shaped wooden idols from the European mud, proving physical representation was a standard part of their faith. Along the Rhine, stone altars dedicated to the Matronoe, groups of 3 mother goddesses, reveal deep regional variations. Their non-Roman clothing and specific local names point to a culture heavily blended with neighboring Celtic groups. This physical record proves the religion was localized and visceral, contradicting the broad, simplified stereotypes found in Roman literature. Our final lens comes from the very end of the story. Long after the Roman Empire fell, and centuries after the height of the pagan era, Icelandic writers like Snorri Sturluson finally codified the myths in the 13th century. This lens provides the rich cosmology we recognize today, the realms of Midgard, the world tree Yggdrasil, and the detailed genealogies of the gods. But the source is contaminated. Snorri was a Christian writing for a Christian audience, documenting a faith that had been officially abandoned generations before his birth. Because of this, the myths appear tinted. The apocalyptic battle of Ragnarok mirrors the structure of the Book of Revelation, and the underworld realm of hell takes on the grim, punishing characteristics of Christian damnation. These Norse texts are brilliant literature, but they represent a final, filtered evolution of the religion, not its ancient starting point. We have the biased reports of Roman conquerors, the physical truths buried in the earth, and the Christianized echoes of Norse mythology. Viewing them together reveals the broader picture. Ancient Germanic paganism was a decentralized living web of shared spiritual DNA, rather than a single institution with a central authority. This created extreme regionality. A 1st century Saxon and a 10th century Viking shared a common ancestry of gods, but their daily rituals and understandings of the divine were shaped by their specific time and geography. The absence of a central Germanic Bible is the defining feature of the faith. Cross-referencing these fragmented clues, Roman observations, archaeological finds, and Norse poetry reveals the living